Man, it's crazy, isn't it? This AI world just keeps accelerating.
Doesn't it?
It's like every single day there's some groundbreaking new thing.
Yeah,
It's hard to even keep up.
it really is. And that's, I guess, what we're here for. To
Yeah.
do these deep dives and try to pick out the really important things, the things that, are really going to matter.
Yeah, exactly. And help people not feel like they need to, read every single research paper and keep track of all the minutia, but just kind of get the big picture stuff.
Absolutely. Cut through the noise.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So that's what we're going to do today. We're going to take a look at the announcement that came out on April 5th, 2025, directly from the source about a new generation of large language models, the Llama 4 family.
Uh-huh.
And we've got all the details here. And it's pretty exciting stuff.
Really interesting. Yeah.
So I think our mission here, if you will, is to kind of really unpack what is Llama 4, why is it a big deal, and what makes it different.
Yeah.
And do that in a way that's approachable for anyone who's following this topic.
Right. Wants to get up to speed quickly without being overwhelmed.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah.
Yeah. All right. So first off, one of the interesting things is that Llama 4 isn't just one model. It's a whole family of models. They call it a herd, is the term they use in the announcement.
Turn of models.
A herd, yeah. And they say this is the beginning of a new era of natively multimodal AI innovation, which, that's a pretty bold statement.
It is, and that new era is being brought about by three key models, Llama 4 Scout, Llama 4 Maverick, and then we've got a bit of a preview of their powerhouse model, Llama 4 Behemoth.
Okay. So let's start with Llama 4 Scout. So they describe this as the best multimodal model in the world in its class, which, again, a pretty bold claim. So what is it about this model that gives it that edge?
Well, first of all, it has 17 billion active parameters. It also utilizes the system of 16 experts, which is kind of like having a specialized team of AI brains working together.
Okay.
What's also really interesting is that it can fit. It's designed to run on a single NVIDIA H100 GPU,
Okay.
which makes it a lot more accessible for developers to be able to work with.
Right, right.
But the thing that really stood out to me was this industry-leading context window of 10 M tokens.
Yeah, 10 million.
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a huge number. So what does that actually allow it to do? Like, what does that mean in terms of its capabilities?
Yeah, that massive context window means it can handle a huge amount of information all at once. Like we're talking, being able to analyze entire books, years of research papers, pull out the insights from those. It can even analyze massive amounts of code. So for someone who is dealing with lots of complex information, this could be incredibly powerful.
Yeah.
It really can understand the bigger picture no matter how complex that picture is.
Yeah, it's a mind-boggling amount of information that it can handle, and it's not just about the size. It also performs very well. They mentioned in the announcement that it delivers better results than some of the big names out there: Gemma 3, Gemini 2.0 Flashlight, and Mistral 3.1 on various benchmarks. So it's definitely keeping very impressive company.
It is.
Okay, so then we have Llama 4 Maverick. This one they also say is the best multimodal model in its class. And they specifically say that it outperforms some other leading models,
Right.
GPT-4o and Gemini 2.0 Flash. So what sets Maverick apart from Scout?
Well, Maverick also has 17 billion active parameters, but the key difference here is in the number of experts that it uses. It uses 128 experts, which is significantly larger than Scout.
Okay.
So think of it as having an even more diverse and specialized team of AI brains.
So more experts doesn't necessarily mean better, but it's good at different things. It has strengths in different areas.
Right, exactly.
Okay. They also mentioned that Maverick achieves comparable results to DeepSeek V3 on reasoning and coding tasks, but with less than half the active parameters. So really emphasizing how efficient this model is.
Absolutely. Getting more bang for your buck, so to speak.
Exactly. And they also mentioned an experimental chat version scoring a 1417 ELO on El Marina, which, for those following along, that's a pretty strong score.
It is.
Okay. And then in terms of what Maverick can actually do, where does it really shine?
Well, its core strengths are in understanding both images and text, allowing it to bridge language barriers very
Hmm.
effectively. It's also noted for its very precise image understanding and its strong creative writing
Yeah.
abilities. So it's really a very versatile model that can be used for lots of different applications.
Right. So we've got Scout with its, enormous memory and strong overall performance, and Maverick, which is super efficient and good at, understanding different types of information.
Right.
And then we have, kind of the big one, the one they're still training, which is Llama for Behemoth.
Right, the powerhouse.
And even just the name
Hmm.
kind of implies, a lot of power, a lot of capability.
It does.
So tell me about Behemoth.
Well, they're positioning Behemoth as the teacher model. It's the one that has this vast knowledge and capabilities that helps the smaller models achieve what they do. Now, Behemoth boasts a staggering 288 billion active parameters,
Wow.
and it also uses 16 experts like Scout, but on a much grander scale.
288 billion. So that is just like orders of magnitude larger than Scout and Maverick.
It's huge.
And I imagine the performance claims are equally ambitious.
They are. They report that it has superior performance on STEM benchmarks compared to GPT 4.5, Claude Sonnet 3.7, and Gemini 2.0 Pro.
Okay.
So this really establishes its raw power and deep understanding.
Right. So we can't actually use Behemoth yet, but
Right.
it's kind of a glimpse into, where things are headed.
Yeah. And the potential of these models.
And you mentioned that it actually plays a role in training Scout and Maverick.
It does.
Okay.
Yep.
So it's not just about, setting these performance records, but it's also about actually contributing to the training of other models.
It's a key part of the process.
Okay. Very interesting. All right. Well, so let's talk about the underlying technology then that makes Llama 4 so advanced. What are some of the key innovations that they've baked in?
Well, there are several. One of the most fundamental is the introduction of what's called a mixture of experts, or MOE architecture.
Okay.
Now, this is the first time that they've used this in the Llama family.
Okay. So MOE, break that down for me a little bit. What does that actually mean, and why is it a big deal?
So with MOE, only a small fraction of the model's parameters are actually active for any given piece's information that's being processed.
Hmm.
So it makes the model much more efficient both during training and during inference. They gave the example that Llama 4 Maverick has 17 billion active parameters, but out of a total of 400 billion.
Okay.
So it's kind of like having this huge team of specialists, but you're only calling on the few experts that are relevant to the task at hand.
So it's a way to have this huge model, but not actually need all of that, computing power all the time.
Exactly.
Okay, that's really interesting. What else? What's another big one?
Well, another key advancement is something they call native multimodality with early fusion.
Okay.
Now, this means that the model processes text and visual information together right from the start.
Okay.
So instead of the AI looking at a picture and reading text separately, it's doing it all simultaneously.
Okay.
This allows the model to learn from vast amounts of combined data in a much more integrated way.
Okay. So it's kind of like, if you were trying to understand a joke and you read the setup and then you had to go look at the punchline written somewhere else,
Right.
it wouldn't be as effective as if you could see it all at once.
Exactly.
So it's getting that full context.
Ah.
Okay. So early fusion, very important. What else is there?
Well, they also mentioned an improved vision encoder. This is based on their Metaclip technology,
Uh-huh.
but it was trained separately to work even better with the Llama language model.
Okay.
So, it really allows for a much more kind of human-like understanding of the world, where the AI can connect what it sees with what it reads.
Yeah, yeah. And that, that kind of multimodal understanding is really going to be key for, a lot of the applications that we're starting to see.
Absolutely.
Okay. What else?
Well, they've also developed a new training technique called METAP,
Okay.
and this helps them reliably set critical hyperparameters across different model sizes and different training setups. So it's kind of like having a more precise way to calibrate the AI's learning process.
Right. So better ways to teach the AI, essentially.
Exactly.
Okay. What about languages? The world is increasingly multilingual. How does Llama 4 handle that?
Well, Llama 4 was trained on data that includes 200 different languages.
Okay.
Over 100 of those languages have more than 1 billion tokens each.
Wow.
So it's a huge amount of multilingual data.
Yeah.
It's 10 times more than Llama 3, which significantly boosts its ability to understand and generate text in a much wider range of languages.
Yeah, so really moving towards a more, global AI that can work across different languages.
Exactly.
Okay. They also mentioned some things about how they train these models more efficiently.
Right. So they talked about using FP8 precision,
Uh-huh.
which basically means they can do calculations with less memory and processing power without sacrificing the quality of the model.
Okay.
They even said they achieved 390 TFLOPs per GPU during Llama 4 Behemoth pre-training. And in terms of the amount of data that they used, it's a staggering amount. Over 30 trillion tokens, which is more than double what they used for Llama 3.
30 trillion.
Uh,
It's hard to even fathom that amount of
It's
data.
massive.
Yeah. Okay, so you mentioned earlier that Llama Force Cat has this incredible 10 million token context window.
Right.
So how did they actually manage to achieve that?
Well, that was achieved through a special type of training that they did in the middle of the overall process.
Okay.
They use data sets that are specifically designed to teach the model how to handle those long sequences of information.
Okay.
They also made some architectural changes. For example, they use something called interleaved attention layers, or IROP.
Okay.
And this helps the model track information across those long sequences without needing those traditional positional embeddings that can kind of slow things down.
Right, right. So they engineered the model and the training process to specifically be able to handle these, really long context windows.
Exactly.
Okay. And then it sounds like the post-training, the fine-tuning process also got a pretty major overhaul.
It did. They have a completely revamped pipeline.
Okay.
They use a process of lightweight supervised fine-tuning, followed by online reinforcement learning, and then finally a lightweight direct preference optimization.
Okay.
Something that's really interesting is they found that removing some of the easier training examples during the reinforcement learning phase actually led to bigger gains on more complex tasks.
Yeah, that's interesting. So focusing on the harder stuff actually helps the model learn better in the more complex area.
Exactly, yeah.
Okay. And you also mentioned earlier something called co-distillation.
Yes.
So tell me a little bit more about that. What is that?
So co-distillation is how they used Llama 4 Behemoth, the really big, powerful model, to improve Llama 4 Maverick.
Okay.
So basically, the larger model, taught the smaller model, leading to significant improvements in performance.
Okay. So Behemoth wasn't just about, setting those performance records. It also actually played an active role in making the more accessible Maverick model better.
Absolutely.
Okay, very interesting. And then they also mentioned some of the challenges they faced in scaling up their reinforcement learning techniques to handle, a model as big as Behemoth.
Right. So training a model with 2 trillion parameters really required a complete overhaul of their reinforcement learning infrastructure.
Yeah.
They optimized the way they distribute the model for speed, and they developed this asynchronous online reinforcement learning framework, which made things much more efficient.
Okay. So it sounds like, really a comprehensive effort touching every part of the model's development.
It really is.
Um, okay. So for those who are, eager to see what these models can do, what's the availability look like?
Well, the great news is that Llama 4 Scout and Maverick are available for download right now. You can get them on llama.com and Hugging Face. So developers can start playing around with them and building new applications.
That's great news for, the open source community and for, anyone who's interested in working with these models.
Absolutely.
And then they also mention ways that, everyday users can get a taste of Llama 4.
Right. So Meta AI is powered by Llama 4.
Yeah.
And it's being rolled out in popular apps like WhatsApp, Messenger, Instagram Direct, and on the web.
Okay.
So that means that a lot of people will be able to interact with the technology firsthand.
Yeah. Yeah. It's great that they're not just, releasing the underlying models, but they're also actually integrating it into these products that people use every day.
Right.
And it really highlights their belief that openness drives innovation and is good for developers, good for Meta, and good for the world, which is, a pretty strong statement.
It is. Yeah, that's a core part of their philosophy.
Okay. And then finally, they just briefly mentioned the broader ecosystem that these models are a part of. It's not just about the models themselves.
Right. So these models are designed to be part of this larger network, which includes product integrations and partnerships across the tech industry.
Okay.
And they specifically mentioned several companies, major cloud providers like AWS, Google Cloud, hardware manufacturers like NVIDIA and AMD, even service companies like Accenture and Deloitte.
Okay.
So, this really underscores the collaborative nature of AI development.
Yeah. So it's not just about the models themselves, but it's about how they connect with, all the other things that are happening in the tech world.
Right.
Okay. Great. Well, I think we've covered a lot of ground here in this deep dive. Just to kind of recap for our listeners, what would you say are the most important things to take away?
Well, I think the key things to remember are the impressive capabilities of Llama 4 Scout and Maverick, especially their ability to understand both text and images natively. We also have that incredible 10 million token context window in Scout, and their performance on benchmarks is very strong compared to other leading models. We also got this preview of Llama 4 Behemoth, the really powerful model that helps train the others. And then, underpinning all of this is the technological advancements, the mixture of experts architecture, the native integration of text and vision, the sophisticated training techniques that they've developed.
Yeah. Yeah, for me, the aha moment is really seeing how these, advancements are moving us toward more personalized and truly intelligent AI experiences.
Absolutely.
I think that's something that's relevant to anyone who's listening, whether you're a developer, whether you're working in a field that's going to be transformed by these technologies, or just someone who's curious about the future.
Right.
Understanding what these models can do and how they work is really important. So as we wrap up this deep dive, here's something for everyone to think about. With these more powerful and accessible multimodal AI models now available, what entirely new kinds of applications and interactions do you envision becoming possible in the near future? What impact could this have on your own work or your own interests, or just on the world in general? It's a really fascinating landscape, and it's one that's continuing to evolve at an incredible pace.
It is, and I think there's no limit to the possibilities.
Yeah.
It's really exciting.
All right. Well, thanks for joining me on this deep dive,
My pleasure. It was a good one.
and we'll catch you next time.
Sounds good.
Bye.